Blake Lively, Amber Heard, Gone Girl, The Life of David Gale. These people in these movies teach us that things aren't as simple as they seem. Estrogen and testosterone. It's amazing how human beings in our culture, we don't recognize the basic chemistry of people. Testosterone tends to make you angrier, more dominant. Estrogen tends to make you sadder, more submissive. Anyone who knows the basics about relationships probably understands that there's a certain dynamic. So, what happens in every other relationship? Person with more testosterone is typically more aggressive. Person with estrogen is typically more submissive. The problem is when the person with more estrogen is actually the bad guy. You guys need to understand that men need women and women need men. None of us would be here without women. None of us would be here without men. Breakups are what villainize a lot of folks. And people online, people in our culture, we jump to conclusions based on whatever has the least risk to us. We are not critical thinkers in the face of threats to our own acceptance and place in the tribe. Before I continue, I just want to comment on the fact that almost no one actually comments on anything I say in these videos. Almost no one actually listens, thinks about whatever. The words that are actually coming out of my mouth. You'll see comments that are like, oh, this is incoherent rambling. How so? What exactly was incoherent about it? Is it that you can't understand what I'm saying? Because I'm articulate. I'm speaking clearly, forming sentences. Messages are relayed from my brain to your ears. So what is the holdup here? What is so difficult to understand? When did not being able to understand the point that someone is making become a bragging position? So it's very strange going from someone who was such an aggressive activist for equality, fair treatment, etc., and then being front and center for Warner Brothers Discovery to use as a punching bag. Do you guys understand what a comedy the documentary about me was for people who actually know me? Like, it's satire. Me speaking to you right now is an example. Like, if you go and watch this documentary and then you look at me talk, very frankly, very honestly, it's weird. And if you look at the actual, like, for instance, to like, oh, this person did this, this, and this, and then you look into the actual history of me and the things that they did not include, and you start to think, how do they get away with this? How do they so blatantly frame someone for something they didn't do and pay the people framing them? How do they get away with that? How do they get away with paying people to have the most extreme narrative about a guy using out of context clips that could easily be debunked by watching the full videos? So in our culture, I don't know what happened with Blake Lively. I don't know what happens with, a lot of what happened with Amber Heard. Johnny Depp was he was imperfect. And like, if you just think about the text that Johnny Depp sent, I would never send the texts Johnny Depp sent. It was unforgivable, the things that Johnny Depp said. And that's a crazy take coming from me, right? You would think I would be 100% on Johnny Depp's team because he's a fellow testosterone. Nope. If you look up the text that Johnny Depp sent, he is unforgivable and so gross. But that doesn't mean I hate Captain Jack Sparrow. Like, I don't know what you guys want from me. You want to boycott everyone who has even remotely a different opinion than you and lives even remotely a different life than you. And it's bizarre to me because we, if you're an American, we are so saturated in imperfection. Like, your logic is we should boycott anyone who has an imperfect past, anyone who has made mistakes, etc. Do you know how imperfect we as a country, our past is? Should people just boycott our country? Should we all downward spiral into the greatest depression because our country is imperfect? No. You look at the full picture. You know what I mean? You understand that none of us are perfect. And you give an appropriate response to something someone did. Johnny had to go through this whole trial. And he had, like, the process is the punishment. He had to go through all these things. And eventually he won, but he still had that stuff analyzed front and center. And he did technically lose like $1 million, which, you know, ultimately he gained so much more. My point is, you guys view the world as black and white, and that's just not rational. Just like that documentary I was talking about. It's not rational. It's not rational to send me a contract that says, hey, we'll let you participate. Just kidding. We won't let you participate. Or maybe we will. I don't know. Sign this so you don't have any rights, though. Like, and then they say, oh, he didn't comment, he refused to comment or whatever. And it's like, that is so corrupt. And you guys let people get away with it. You let multi-billion-dollar corporations get away with framing people, dragging people, pretending like they're the next Joker. They're the next Bane. They're the next Thanos. People don't work like that. Nobody is black and white. No one. And yet you guys continuously black and white people. Watch The Life of David Gale. Go watch it now. Go watch Gone Girl. Go look up everything that happened with Blake Lively. Go look into Amber Heard. And maybe try to stop assuming that because someone who I rejected, who I kicked out of my life for being a criminal, for being a bad person, not convicted, just someone who had violated the law repeatedly in serious ways. Maybe consider that possibly you don't know the full story and you've refused to listen to the full story. And when you go around canceling people without knowing the full story, like for instance, that person went out of her way to make sure that not only I would be censored, but that I couldn't even do interviews about it. You guys joined Team Amber Heard, and you did it with a SHIT eating grin. And you felt like good people doing it. And it's amazing the way you guys don't understand that even if you would have, died during your hero phase, you still would have been villains because you were always the villain. Like, I'll never forgive you for what you did to my spouse.